This is part 4 of worksheet 4 in unit 3. One of the more complicated parts on this worksheet, and definitely one of the most complicated parts in unit 3. We're going to start by sketching, and I'm going to sketch on this XZ face, and we're actually going to be making the two circles for the sections of pipe that leave the shape kind of horizontally. So these circles are offset, and we can kind of look at um, the center of these axes being the center of the bottom circle. So the center of the bottom circle has a diameter of 30, and the higher circle is 20 units higher. It has the same diameter of 30. So this looks kind of complex, but we're going to actually start by extruding it. I'll start by extruding the bottom circle towards the front. And the full distance that this goes from the center of the shape is actually 55, but it gets smaller for the last 27 units. And so I'm going to take 55 minus 27, and I get 28, which is the distance that'll go in this direction. Then I'll go and turn the visibility back on for my sketch so that I can extrude again, this time using the back circle. So I'm clicking the upper circle. In this one, I am going to go the full distance that it shows, which is 110 minus 55, which is also 55. Okay, this looks kind of weird, but this is this is in the orientation of the isometric view on the bottom right of the worksheet. This is that back section of tube, and this is the front section of tube. And so now what I'm going to do is something that we have not done before, which is I'm going to turn the visibility of the origin back on. And this is something that you can also do in Inventor, because what I need to do is draw something on this plane to make that vertical cylinder. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'll draw on the XY plane. I'm going to make a circle centered right in the middle with a diameter of 40. And notice how I'm not making any of the holes right now. The reason that I'm not making any of the holes is because we want to make sure that we have the full shape created before we make any holes. That way, when we make that hole, it actually howls all the way through. If we make a hole early and then extrude later, we might actually obstruct that hole. So now I'm going to make an extrusion, and this one is going to, if we look at the right here, we're not just going to be going up. It defaults to cutting. It's not going to just go up, but we also need to go down. And so this is going to be a two-sided extrusion. And so from the center of this bottom pipe, we need to measure how far up and how far down. And the full distance is 115 because that's the full height. And so downward, we can see is 50. And upward is 65 to the top, but just like the pipe on the left side, because it tapers and gets smaller, we're going to stop. Instead of going all the way up 65, we're going to go 25 less, because that's when the taper starts. And so 65 minus 25 is 40. So now what I'm going to do is add the taper section to the front here. We can sketch on it and make a circle that is the right diameter. And so first we get a diameter of 25. Then we can extrude that out the additional distance. And so here we wanted a total of 55. We had 28, and so we need 27 more. Now we're going to repeat the same process on the top. Now we're going to draw on the bottom of the shape in order to make the square base. So I'm going to create a sketch down here. And this sketch is quite interesting. What we're going to have to do is make 4 circles and then connect those circles with lines. So we're going to use a diameter of 70. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2 lines that go through my circle. And it doesn't really matter where you place these lines. Like the distance doesn't matter as long as they are aligned with the axes horizontally and vertically. Now, before I start placing circles at the intersections, I'm actually going to go use the fix constraint, and I'm going to fix both of these lines. And so you can click all 4 endpoints or just the entire line like I just did, press enter. And now what's helpful is that when we start to add constraints later with the tangent constraint tool, it's not going to move these lines, which is very important because the centers of these smaller circles are going to be constrained on these lines. So at each intersection here, we're going to make a circle with a diameter of 20, and that's based on the radius of 10 shown on the top view, which is on the bottom left of the worksheet. And now I'm going to make lines, and these lines just need to connect the circles. If you hover and you see the tangent symbol like I just did, it would be good to click it, but you don't need to click it. So that line is just connecting the 2 circles. This line, again, I waited for the tangent to show up. And now I'm going to use the tangent tool, and anytime I see a line hitting the circle that's not accompanied by this tangent symbol, I'm going to make sure I say that this line needs to be tangent to that curve. And so we're clicking very carefully. And we see that as we do this, the only thing that moves is the lines. The circles don't move, and that's important. If your circles are moving, then we didn't constrain it enough before, and so you might get some wonky geometry. Okay, so now I've got all 8 tangent symbols. I'm going to finish the sketch, and I'm going to go back to a home view. I'm going to extrude. Now it asks me for which region. Since I have all these different regions, I'm going to just click and drag to highlight all of the regions. And since we already went to the bottom of the shape, we actually have to go up towards the top. We're not cutting out, though we're adding, and the distance should be 10. So that's how we make I have to edit that actually because we don't want to include the larger circle. Oh man, that is annoying. So right there, the circle sticks out just a little bit from the edge, which made this little bulge. So we have to make sure to deselect that. Each edge should be flat. So now with the home view, we've got Yep, nice and unobstructed edge there. We're going to do the same thing on this face, but it's just a circle, and so I'm not going to show you that. And so again, we drew that sketch and then extruded it in towards the shape. I'm going to turn off the origin, we don't have to see it anymore. And so now we have the full shape. The only thing we have to do is add holes, fillets, chamfers, and and the holes that I guess go through the middle. So those are holes nonetheless. So we can start on the bottom with the hole tool, and these holes are diameter of 10. We go through. We don't have a drill point, so we can click the curve. Should be able to click the curve. There we go. To center it there. So we have those bottom holes. On the face out here, we're actually going to make a sketch. So I'm going to do this on the back here. And this sketch is just to make a circle that has a diameter of 60. And then we put points at each of the four quadrants of that circle, I guess. Then we can use the hole tool and say to look at the sketch. If we choose the points, then it should make all these at the same time. Notice that if we look at the side view, the distance is exactly 10, so it just goes through the shape and it doesn't go and make a hole through the rest of the shape, which is good. Also, the diameter is 10, so the distance and the diameter are both good as they are written. So it makes those holes. We're then going to make a hole from the top. And this one is going to be a diameter of 16. It's going to go all the way through. Then we're going to go to the bottom and create a hole here as well. We can line it up with that hole. And we have to make the diameter larger, which I know in the bottom of the side view it says a diameter of 30. We're actually just going to be using a diameter of 25, so we don't have to taper it. And we're not going to be going all the way to the top like this shows. We're going to be going from the bottom to the top, which is 115 minus 30. And so that's a distance of 85. If we look at a side view here, that should end right before it tapers up to the top. And so we can see that if we look at the bottom, there's these two diameters. This one that we just created that stops before the end, and then the smaller one that goes all the way through. We're then going to create two holes going in towards the center of the shape. This is a diameter 15. We want to be careful that it doesn't go too far. And so the distance is very important. We see here, if we were to, I'll accept this and then edit it. This looks wrong because now we have a hole that goes all the way through the center. And so in the back, this hole exists where it shouldn't. And so I'm going to edit that hole and make the distance stop in the center, which should be 55 away. And then I'm going to repeat the same thing on this circle. Make sure we find the center. That's going to be the same dimensions. It's going to be a 15 diameter with a distance of 55. Look at the side view. That 55 distance ends right in the center of our part then. And so that looks better because our hole goes in, but not all the way through on both sides. So then the last things that we have to do are fillet and chamfer. So the first fillet I see is on this edge with a radius of 4. We also have a fillet of 4 at this edge. And the bottom edge. All of those have the same radius. And so if you wanted to select multiple edges, that's acceptable, especially since they all have the same radius. Then for chamfers, I see the very top edge and that edge. Also this one. I think those are all the chamfer edges I see. Those have a distance of 1. And we're not going to worry about the tap of this cylinder. So that's how you complete part 4 on worksheet 4, unit 3.